He had everything: a kingdom, power, absolute control, and still, he destroyed everyone he loved. There is a kind of power that has everything: the territory, the army, the backing of the greatest empire in history. And still, it cannot obtain the one thing it truly wants. This is the story of Herod the Great, the king who built wonders and destroyed everyone he loved. Herod was not born into inevitability. He was born into awareness. His family was Idumean, forcibly converted to Judaism a century before. Never fully accepted, always one step below in the hierarchy of legitimacy. From childhood, he watched his father, Antipater, move between Romans and Jews with a fluency no one else could match. And he learned something: those born into lineage never need to learn. Identity is not what you are. It is what the system decides you are. And that system, in Jerusalem, saw him clearly. The son of a convert, not with open hostility, with something harder to fight. Politeness, without warmth, doors that open, just enough, and no further. A child who grows up like that doesn't learn to seek love. He learns to seek something else: recognition that cannot be taken away. That is what Herod spent his life chasing, and never found. Then came Mariamne, Hasmonean, a direct descendant of the priest kings who had ruled Judea before Rome. In her, legitimacy did not need to be built. It already existed. The marriage was political design. Roman power, joined with ancestral legitimacy. On paper, it was perfect. But Herod did not approach her coldly. He desired her. Not just for what she represented, but for what she was. That composure she carried effortlessly, that presence that needed no validation, drew him in. Because for a man who had built everything, what cannot be built becomes something else entirely. Something fragile, something dangerous. Mariamne had what he could never have. Not power. He had power. She had legitimacy. The kind that exists before you do. The kind that doesn't need to prove itself. He could possess her, but he could never become what she was. And that difference was felt every single day. That's where everything changed. The tension found form with the appointment of Aristobulus, her brother. 17 years old, Hasmonean on both sides. When he appeared in the robes of the high priest, the crowd reacted. Not with excitement, with recognition. They weren't seeing something new. They were remembering. Herod watched from above, and in that moment, he understood something clearly. The difference between ruling because Rome allows it, and ruling because people believe you belong there. Months later, Aristobulus was dead. An accident, they said. He drowned during a celebration. He was 18. Herod wept publicly. No one believed him. And from that moment forward, everyone understood. Anything that felt too legitimate could be removed. Rome divided. Herod chose the wrong side. He had to face Octavian, not knowing if he would return with a crown or without a head. Before leaving, he gave an order. If he did not return alive, Mariamne was to be executed. No accusation, no betrayal. Only this: if he died, she could not live without him. That's what makes it disturbing. It wasn't hatred. It was love, subordinated to power. Controlled, contained, turned into something else. Mariamne learned of the order after he returned alive. She did not scream. She did not accuse. She remained calm. And that calm changed everything. Because it wasn't forgiveness, it was distance. Final distance. And Herod felt it. And what he couldn't name began to grow. Suspicion doesn't begin with evidence. It begins with repetition. Mariamne's distance spread through the palace. Advisors gave it words. Distance became accusation. Silence became proof. The charge: treason. She entered the tribunal composed. She didn't collapse. She didn't plead. She remained whole. And that was the problem. Because in secure authority, composure looks like dignity. In insecure authority, it looks like resistance. Herod faced a single choice. Let her live, and live with uncertainty. Or condemn her, and keep control. He had chosen control his entire life. He looked at her, and chose it again. Mariamne was condemned. She did not break. She remained whole until the end. That was the last thing she chose. And it was entirely hers. The palace continued. The structure, the order, everything exactly as before. That was what Herod wanted. A system that depended on no one. Not even her. But something remained, something power couldn't erase. He called her name in empty corridors. He searched for her in rooms she once occupied. The love he had controlled came back, stronger in absence than it ever was in presence. Their sons grew up carrying her blood, and with it, the same problem. Years passed, the kingdom held, the system worked, everything remained stable. But stability, in Herod's world, was never peace. It was control, and control always requires maintenance. The same pattern, the same fear, the same decision. His sons were executed, just like her. Not because of what they had done, but because of what they were. The blood of Mariamne did not disappear, it multiplied. And so did the threat. Because power that survives by eliminating what threatens it never stops defending itself. Until there is nothing left worth protecting. Herod died in 4 BC. He left behind temples, cities, monuments, stone that would outlast him. But inside the palace, nothing remained. No legacy strong enough to hold. No presence strong enough to endure. Only absence. The same absence he had created. Power can win every battle, and still lose the only thing that mattered. And in the end, it was never about power. It was about a man who tried to possess what could only be recognized, and a woman who never needed to prove who she was. He could rule a kingdom, but he could not belong to it, and he could not keep the one person who truly did. If you're drawn to stories like this, stories where power, love, and control collide, subscribe. There's more to uncover.